There's a moment when someone shows you their true face. Not the polished version they wear in public, not the careful performance they've rehearsed for years, but the raw, unfiltered truth of who they really are when they think nobody's watching. Most people miss this moment entirely because they're too busy listening to words instead of watching actions. But Machiavelli, he built his entire understanding of human nature around one simple truth. Loyalty isn't what people say when everything is perfect. It's what they do when everything falls apart. You think you know who's loyal to you. Your business partner who shakes your hand every morning. Your friend who calls you family. Your employee who stays late and works weekends. But here's what Machiavelli understood 500 years ago that most people still don't grasp today. Every single person in your life is performing loyalty until the moment they're tested. And when that test comes, and it always comes, you'll discover that 90% of the people you trusted were just waiting for the right opportunity to show you exactly how little you actually meant to them. This isn't cynicism, this is strategy. Because the person who can identify true loyalty versus performed loyalty holds a power that most people will never understand. They know who to trust with their secrets, who to invest their energy in, and who to keep at arm's length no matter how convincing their act might be. They know who will stand with them when the stakes are high and who will vanish the moment things get uncomfortable. Today, I'm going to show you Machiavelli's most surgical question for revealing true loyalty. Not the loyalty people claim to have, not the loyalty they perform when it's convenient, but the loyalty that exists in the deepest part of their character when everything else is stripped away. This isn't about manipulation or testing people for sport. This is about protection. This is about knowing exactly who deserves your trust and who's been playing a game you didn't even realize was happening. But before we dive into the question itself, you need to understand why most people are completely wrong about loyalty in the first place. They think loyalty is about grand gestures, public declarations, or years of consistent behavior. They think it's about who shows up to your birthday party or who likes your social media posts. They think it's about who says the right things when you're celebrating your wins. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood that loyalty isn't measured in moments of joy. It's measured in moments of loss. Think about the people in your life right now, your closest friends, your romantic partner, your business associates, even your family members. How many of them have you actually seen during your worst moments? How many of them have witnessed you when you weren't winning, when you weren't successful, when you weren't the person they wanted to be associated with? Because that's when true loyalty reveals itself. Not when you're on top of the world, but when you're face down in the dirt wondering if you'll ever get back up. Most people surround themselves with fair-weather friends without even realizing it. These are the people who love being around your success, who enjoy the benefits of your achievements, who bask in the reflected glory of your wins. But the moment your fortune changes, the moment you face real adversity, the moment you need them most, they develop mysterious scheduling conflicts. They become suddenly busy with other priorities. They start viewing your struggles as inconvenient interruptions to their own lives. This is why Machiavelli developed his approach to testing loyalty. He didn't wait for natural disasters to reveal character. He created controlled scenarios that would expose the truth before it was too late to adjust his strategy. He understood that discovering someone's disloyalty after you've already trusted them with something important isn't wisdom. It's negligence. The time to identify fake loyalty is before you need real loyalty, not after. The question Machiavelli used wasn't complex or elaborate. It wasn't some psychological trick that required advanced training to execute. It was devastatingly simple, which made it devastatingly effective. Because simple questions bypass the elaborate defenses people construct around their true motivations. They slip past the rehearsed answers and scripted responses that most people have prepared for obvious tests. But here's what made Machiavelli's approach so brilliant. He never asked this question directly. He never sat someone down and said, "I'm about to test your loyalty." That would have been amateur hour, and Machiavelli was anything but amateur. Instead, he wove this question into natural conversation, into everyday interactions, into moments when people's guards were down and their authentic responses would surface. The question works because it targets something fundamental about human nature: how people respond when they believe their own interests might conflict with yours. Most loyalty tests focus on dramatic scenarios, life or death situations, extreme circumstances that rarely occur in real life. But Machiavelli's question was designed for the everyday moments, the small decisions, the minor conflicts that actually reveal the deepest truths about character. You see, when someone's loyalty is tested in a massive crisis, they know they're being watched. They know their response matters. They know there will be consequences for their choice. So they perform the role they think they should play, even if it doesn't align with their true nature. But when someone's loyalty is tested in a seemingly insignificant moment, when they think nobody's paying attention, when they believe their choice won't really matter, that's when their authentic self emerges. This is the difference between strategic loyalty testing and emotional loyalty testing. Most people test loyalty when they're already upset, already suspicious, already emotional. They ask questions that reveal more about their own insecurities than about the other person's character. But Machiavelli approached loyalty testing like a scientist approaches an experiment, with detachment, with precision, with a clear hypothesis to prove or disprove. The beauty of his method is that it doesn't damage relationships with truly loyal people. If someone passes the test, they never even realize they were being evaluated. The question feels natural, the conversation flows normally, and the relationship continues unchanged. But if someone fails the test, you now have crucial information about their character without having invested more trust than you can afford to lose. Think about this from a practical standpoint. How much heartbreak, how much betrayal, how much financial loss, how much wasted time could you avoid if you knew someone's true loyalty level before you made them a partner, before you shared your vulnerabilities, before you built your plans around their participation? How different would your life look if you could identify the people worth investing in versus the people who are just along for the ride as long as it benefits them? This isn't about becoming paranoid or suspicious of everyone around you. This isn't about assuming the worst in people or building walls that keep everyone at a distance. This is about developing the skill to see people clearly, to understand their motivations accurately, and to calibrate your expectations realistically. Because when you can identify true loyalty, you can also identify true opportunity for deep, meaningful, mutually beneficial relationships. The people who pass Machiavelli's loyalty test aren't just safer to trust. They're the people worth building something significant with. They're the people who will challenge you when you're wrong, support you when you're right, and stand with you when everyone else walks away. They're rare, which makes identifying them even more valuable. But before I reveal the specific question and show you exactly how to use it, you need to understand the psychology behind why it works so effectively. Because without understanding the mechanism, you might use the question incorrectly, misinterpret the responses, or worse, damage relationships with people who actually deserve your trust. The psychology behind Machiavelli's question exploits a fundamental flaw in how most people think about self-interest. They believe they can separate their personal desires from their moral choices, that they can act selfishly in small matters while remaining noble in big ones. But Machiavelli understood that character is indivisible. The person who betrays you over something minor is the same person who will betray you over something major. The only difference is the price. This is why his question doesn't focus on dramatic scenarios or life-changing decisions. Instead, it targets the mundane moments where people reveal their true operating system. Because when someone thinks the stakes are low, when they believe nobody important is watching, when they assume their choice won't really matter, that's when their authentic priorities surface. That's when you see whether they naturally consider your interests or whether they default to pure self-preservation. Most people have two versions of themselves. There's the public version, carefully crafted and socially acceptable, and there's the private version, driven by instinct and immediate desire. The public version talks about loyalty, commitment, and mutual respect. The private version makes decisions based on what feels good right now, what's easiest in the moment, What requires the least sacrifice or discomfort? Machiavelli's question is designed to bypass the public version entirely. It creates a scenario where the private version has to respond before the public version can take control. And in that split second of authentic reaction, you see everything you need to know about where you actually rank in their hierarchy of priorities. Here's the question, and it's so simple you might initially dismiss it. What would you do if you were in my position right now? But the power isn't in the question itself. It's in when you ask it, how you ask it, and what you're listening for in their response. You don't ask this during a crisis. You don't ask it when emotions are running high. You don't ask it when they know they're being evaluated. Instead, you ask it during a casual conversation about a decision you're facing, a challenge you're dealing with, or a situation you're navigating. You present it as seeking their opinion, their advice, their perspective on your circumstances. The truly loyal person will give you advice that prioritizes your best interests, even when those interests might conflict with their own comfort, convenience, or immediate desires. They'll consider your long-term success, your reputation, your values, your goals. They'll think about what's actually best for you, not what's easiest for them to deal with. But the person whose loyalty is performative will give you advice that secretly serves their own agenda. They'll suggest the path that keeps them comfortable, that doesn't require them to make sacrifices, that maintains their position in your life without demanding more from them. They'll frame their self-serving advice as wisdom, as caring about your well-being, as protecting you from making mistakes. Watch their eyes when you ask this question. Listen to how quickly they respond. Notice whether they pause to actually consider your situation or whether they immediately jump to an answer that feels suspiciously convenient for them. Pay attention to whether their advice requires sacrifice from you while demanding nothing from them. The loyal person will sometimes give you advice that makes their own life more difficult. They'll suggest strategies that might mean less time with you, less benefit to them, less comfort in the relationship, because they're actually thinking about what's best for you, not what's best for their own position in your life. But here's where it gets even more revealing. After they give you their advice, watch what happens when you don't take it. The truly loyal person will respect your decision and continue supporting you even if you choose a different path. The performatively loyal person will become subtly resentful, passive-aggressive, or emotionally distant because you didn't follow their guidance. This follow-up reaction is actually more important than their initial response to the question, because someone might accidentally give good advice while still being fundamentally self-serving. But someone who gets upset when you don't follow their advice is revealing that they saw your request for input as an opportunity to control your decisions, not to serve your interests. Machiavelli used this technique not just with individuals but with entire groups. He would present a dilemma to his advisors and watch not just what they recommended but how they reacted when he chose a different course of action. The ones who remained supportive and committed regardless of whether their advice was taken became his inner circle. The ones who became difficult or disengaged when their input was ignored were quietly moved to less influential positions. You can use variations of this question in different relationships and contexts. With a business partner, you might discuss a strategic decision and ask what they would do in your shoes. With a friend, you might share a personal dilemma and seek their perspective on how they would handle it. With a romantic partner, you might present a career opportunity or family situation and ask how they would approach it if they were you. In each case, you're not just listening to their advice, you're analyzing their thought process. Are they considering your values, your goals, your long-term interests? Or are they unconsciously steering you toward choices that happen to align with their preferences, their comfort level, their desired level of involvement in your life? The most dangerous people are those who give advice that sounds wise but consistently serves their own agenda. They've learned to disguise self-interest as wisdom, manipulation as caring, control as support. They'll tell you they're looking out for you while subtly directing you toward choices that keep them comfortable and maintain their position of influence in your life. But the truly loyal person will sometimes give you advice that goes against what they personally want. They'll encourage you to take risks they wish you wouldn't take, pursue opportunities that might mean less time with them. make changes that could disrupt their comfortable routine. Because their primary concern is your success and fulfillment, not their own convenience. This is why Machiavelli's question is so surgical. It cuts through all the surface-level expressions of loyalty and exposes the underlying motivation system. It reveals whether someone naturally thinks in terms of what's best for you or what's best for them when they believe those interests might conflict. Remember, the most skilled manipulators have learned to camouflage their self-serving advice as genuine concern for your well-being. They've mastered the art of sounding wise while steering you exactly where they want you to go. They'll use phrases like, "I'm just worried about you," or "I don't want to see you get hurt," while subtly pushing you toward decisions that happen to make their lives easier. This is where Machiavelli's genius becomes clear. He didn't just listen to what people said. He tracked the patterns in their advice over time. Did their recommendations consistently benefit them while being framed as beneficial to him? Did they always seem to know exactly what was best for him, and did that advice always happen to align with their own comfort zone? The truly loyal person will sometimes admit they don't know what's best for you. They'll acknowledge when your situation is beyond their expertise, or when they have conflicting feelings about what you should do. They'll be honest about their own biases, their own limitations, their own desires that might cloud their judgment. This humility is actually a sign of authentic loyalty, because it shows they care more about giving you accurate guidance than appearing wise or maintaining influence. But watch what happens when you present a scenario where helping you genuinely costs them something significant. Not just inconvenience, but real sacrifice. Maybe time, maybe money, maybe reputation, maybe comfort. The performatively loyal person will find creative ways to avoid that sacrifice while maintaining the appearance of support. They'll suggest alternatives that sound reasonable but happen to require nothing from them. They'll identify obstacles that conveniently excuse them from having to act on their stated loyalty. Here's the advanced variation of the question that Machiavelli used when he suspected someone's loyalty but wanted confirmation. He would present two possible courses of action to someone, both reasonable, both defensible, but one clearly better for him and one clearly better for them. Then he would ask which path they thought he should choose. The response revealed everything. The loyal person would recommend the path that served his interests, even when it cost them personally. The disloyal person would find sophisticated reasons why the path that happened to benefit them was actually the wiser choice for him. They would construct elaborate justifications for why what was good for them was somehow also good for him. This variation is particularly effective because it doesn't feel like a loyalty test. It feels like you're seeking strategic advice from someone whose opinion you value. But you're actually conducting a sophisticated psychological assessment of their true priorities when they think you're genuinely undecided. Pay attention to how much time they spend analyzing each option. The loyal person will spend more time thinking about the implications for you. The self-serving person will spend more time thinking about the implications for themselves, then work backward to construct reasons why their preference is actually better for you. Listen to the language they use when discussing each option. When they talk about the choice that benefits you but costs them, do they sound reluctant? Do they acknowledge the downsides but recommend it anyway? Or do they subtly emphasize the risks while downplaying the benefits? When they discuss the option that benefits them, notice if they become more animated, more confident, more detailed in their reasoning. The shift in energy reveals where their true enthusiasm lies, regardless of what their words claim to prioritize. Machiavelli understood that most people can fake loyalty in the abstract, but they struggle to fake it when faced with concrete choices that require real sacrifice. The question forces them to move beyond theoretical commitment to practical demonstration of where their loyalties actually lie. But here's the sophisticated part that most people miss. The question isn't just about identifying disloyal people so you can eliminate them from your life. It's about understanding the different levels and types of loyalty that exist, so you can calibrate your expectations and investments accordingly. Some people are loyal to you as long as it doesn't significantly inconvenience them. They're not enemies, but they're not allies you can count on in difficult situations. Understanding this allows you to maintain pleasant relationships with them while not depending on them for anything important. Others are loyal to you up to a certain threshold of cost or risk. They'll support you through moderate challenges but will step back when the stakes get too high. Again, this isn't necessarily betrayal, it's just information about their capacity for sacrifice and their risk tolerance. Now you have the weapon Machiavelli used to separate the authentic from the performers. One simple question that cuts through years of careful positioning and reveals the truth in seconds. The people who pass this test treasure them. The ones who fail it, you now know exactly how much trust they've actually earned. Use this knowledge not to become cynical, but to become strategic. Because in a world full of people performing loyalty, the ability to identify the real thing isn't just power, it's survival.